All right. I see a couple people coming in. I don't know. Like, I've seen where other people with live streams have been able to back out and come back in, but I don't know if they backed out all the way like that. Because when I tried to get back in, it looked like it was. I mean, there was no way to get it to continue from where we were. Um, but I sound all right there by now. I had to make an entirely new broadcast. Yeah, Brandy is the tech genius tonight, I guess. Um, awesome. See, Jimbo is here. Hello. Yeah, me too. I don't know what the deal is. I think there's too many people on it. Hopefully, hopefully I can get out of here soon and go someplace where I have better Wi-Fi. Um, this is not a bad place to be, but yeah. Mr. Lee says, let's start. Yeah, let's see how fast your comments go up. Sublock. Yeah, Mug's not going through all that again. Something to squatch about. Welcome. You really didn't miss much. We had something was wrong, and I had to restart entirely. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna edit them together later or something. I don't know. Um, anyway, so when I say people that I think that Sasquatch may be um, a member of the same species as us, there's a lot of information behind that and a train of thought that I don't think most people have entertained. And uh, because when I look at mainstream anthropology and how they've named all these species, that there's egos out there. Um, they may be scientists, but there's also ambition amongst them. I'd love to discover a new species and name it, right? Some people may be a little fast and loose about that and want to declare something a new species when it really is just a subspecies, and maybe they don't want to do that. So if we use the definition that an interbreeding population is the same species, which I think we should, Neanderthals were not a separate species from us, and neither were Denisovans. The DNA shows that they weren't. They interbred with us. They were just different races. And so, without diving too far down the rabbit hole of anthropology, because you have, all these different species they've named, Heidelbergensis, and all, back to Erectus, and then the Australopithecines. I think a lot of those were not separate species at all, and they were the same species as us. And anthropologists just like being able to name new stuff and say, look, we've made this discovery. Well, it is still a discovery. It's just because once the humans started coming out of Africa, they proved they were very mobile. They moved around. The gene flow between populations what was happening, and so these different groups I don't think ever truly speciated. They never truly became separate species. The Pizzly bear is a prime example of that in the bears. Um, they uh, they found there was one case where there was several individuals that, and they genetically tested these Pizzly bears, right? These half breeds, and found that they all came from the same. There was like four of them, I think, came from the same female polar bear. So perhaps she was somewhere in where the ranges came together of the two types of bears, and she could only find male grizzlies to mate with, and they found that she had mated with two different male grizzlies on multiple occasions, and one of those male grizzlies mated with one of their half-breed offspring. So he mated with his daughters. I guess grizzly bears roll like that, and created a 75% grizzly, 25% polar bear. And that's how the genes can flow a little bit back into the grizzly bear population. It's called introgression. There's no problems with the breeding like there is with lions and tigers. The offspring look like what you'd expect a half breed to be, and the half breeds can breed back with one of the parent species just fine. So they're the same species using the definition of species that I think we should, which means that whereas they call polar bears Ursus maritimus instead of Ursus arctos, which is the brown bears and the grizzly bear, they should call polar bear, in my opinion, Ursus arctos subspecies maritimus. Or they might pronounce it, I'm not sure how I think they might pronounce it maritimus because it's derived from the word maritime. But typically, when you pronounce scientific names, you would pronounce something like that, maritimus, but whatever. Let me catch up on some chat here. So, everybody's back, I think. I go to sleep, Mugs, when you're done WTF, so I have to watch replays. Side note, Mugs, the map video had me dying. Yeah, that was funny. I can't believe that didn't work. Paul is back. Bigfoot Anon, what's up? Finding some arrowheads and pottery, huh? B. Lynn likes the subject. You think Moog's show for that? I'm not even really like their issue was whether or not polar bears could survive further south. That's not even what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the parallels with some of the speculation about what Bigfoot is, and now if we talk about the DNA study on supposed Bigfoot samples, there's some people there's some questions about that, and there's some I have some issues with that situation myself. If they do have mitochondrial DNA, the haplogroup H mitochondrial DNA, that's what most Europeans have. If that's true, that basically shows that Sasquatch interbred freely with Europeans, maybe some Middle Easterners, maybe some Asians, but that type of mitochondrial DNA is only, I think it was 25,000 years old. They were interbreeding with us that recently. If they were, they're not a separate species from us. you know. So, and people would say, well, look how different they are. I'm like, but look how similar they are. Those differences aren't that great when you consider some of the other, like the polar bears and the black bears. I mean, polar bear, it's bigger, it's designed a little differently, it's more designed for the cold, and it's a better swimmer, it's a what they call a hyper carnivore because they eat more than like 70%, I think is the number that they go by, in meat. They tear up the seals. They specialize in the seals. Um, Whereas the grizzly bears and all the brown bears typically keep their feet on the ground. Um, and they don't tend to overlap uh, enough to interbreed very often in the wild. They do in the wild sometimes, and they do in zoos and captivity sometimes. Um, but there's some significant differences between these two species, but they interbreed freely. That's why I addressed the species issue. I know they named them as if they're two different species, but I don't think that's correct. Just like I don't think it's correct to name Neanderthals as if they're a separate species or were, because technically my population group is part Neanderthal. We're what's left of the Neanderthals, and the whole idea that that they portrayed them as these knuckle dragging idiots. Well, they probably weren't as much as people have been led to believe. Their brains were bigger than ours even. So now the significance of that's debatable, but I think it's important to note. And so, but dog breeds are another example of the things that are the same. They're the same species, but how well do you think a Chihuahua and a Saint Bernard trying to breed would go? It wouldn't go too well, but the DNA would work. It's just that the Chihuahua female would not survive the pregnancy or probably the breeding process, and the Chihuahua male would probably never. He'd probably need a good stepladder to get the job done. So it's probably not going to happen. But the gene flow can happen through intermediates. They're the same species. Um, so yeah. I mean, I just think that's a thought that should be out there. We need the data though, like the DNA. I just don't know if it's credible. It's not credible enough for me to take it as a fact. Let's see. Look at the chat. Crystal clear, says Paul. Joe Exotic. Is Joe Exotic still the thing? Shouldn't he be in jail or something, or oblivion somewhere, or I mean, I didn't watch that stupid show. Apparently half of America did, though. Mr. Lee asked, are we talking about hybrids? Are we not? So with the Pizzly bear, they typically refer to it as a hybrid. That word, it just, I don't know about using that word. In fact, the other day I mentioned somewhere about how I was glad to hear on Squatch Talk where someone was using the word hybrid, and one of the guest or panel members said, well, interbred. Hybrid has certain connotations to it. People get to thinking about completely different species interbreeding, and typically, look, it's just not if it's a difference, cats and dogs don't breed. They can try. I've seen it. Hell, I had a ferret that used to chase the dog around the house trying to breed with her, but it wouldn't produce offspring. The DNA wouldn't work together. So use the word hybrid. I just don't know if that's the right word to use. But people like that word when they're talking about weird stuff. Oh, it's a hybrid. Sasquatch is a hybrid between angels. Some people believe, or some people bring up alien human hybrids and all this stuff, which doesn't make any damn sense. How is something from a totally different planet going to be genetically compatible with a human? It's not. No other species on our planet is compatible with us. Why would something from another planet be compatible with us? That's just one of the most batshit crazy things I've heard. It wouldn't work. I'm sorry, unless there was some serious technological. Star Trek is bullshit. Okay, all that alien interbreeding stuff would not happen. It just can't. Without technological interference, then okay, maybe you got something, but there's no proof of that stuff. So Paul says, Lockbeard, my question is, are Bigfoot, Sasquatch a people or a byproduct of different species interbreeding, excluding all cryptids? Well, I would say that different species can't interbreed. That's what a species is. If you're interbreeding with something, it's your same species. It might be a little different from you, like the polar bear is from the grizzly. It's just a different race or a different breed, but it's the same species. If you're talking about interbreeding within a species, and I don't know. I mean, I completely don't know that. Okay, we're talking speculation. I'm just trying to present the idea that they may actually just be a race of humans that is just really xenophobic. Culturally, it's just bad juju to interact with our race or collection of races. And they seem to be specifically designed to hide and to endure wild conditions, whereas we've made ourselves soft, and we if we were really intelligent, we would probably take measures to put an end to that, because if we ever find ourselves, like someone mentioned, being dropped butt ass naked out in the wilderness, you would die. Most people would. There's probably a few people that would survive, and it's not because of their inherent genetic quality. It would be just because they have enough learned behaviors to figure out how to survive. So I just think that they are another race of people that have maintained genetic isolation from the rest of us, because they have maybe it just started out as a culture, like that decided, like, it could have started out with one tribe for all we know, thousands of years ago that thought, well, we can either try to fight these crazy bastards over here, or we can just stay well hidden. And just after many generations of just doing that, the ones who couldn't hide as well would get found and killed by aggressive neighboring tribes. But the ones that could hide the best would be the ones that survived long enough to have offspring, and eventually they bred to be able to hide really, really well, and to survive in the wild. Brandy says all the above simply because no one knows for sure. Yeah, we don't know shit. We don't know anything. I mean, this is a speculation. But, I think the Bigfoot community needs to reel it back just a little bit, because it's getting wild. You got dude over here that thinks they're demons, and okay, look, show me evidence that they're demons, and whatever the reality is, I'm ready to accept it. But I need evidence. I need evidence of it. Whereas what I'm saying and what people are saying about relic hominid species, um, it's far more realistic. Michael Hayward's here. Welcome. Yeah, they happen every so often. Um, Speaking of the mitochondrial DNA a while ago, I was reading about there's a population in somewhere. I think it's on some islands, an archipelago in Alaska, where the brown bears there are all, their mitochondrial DNA is the entire population is polar bear, but they're brown bears. So the vast majority of their nuclear DNA, what most people think of, the DNA in the nucleus, your chromosomes, is brown bear. And I talked about this before, how because people, as soon as they heard human mitochondrial DNA for Sasquatch, they immediately you start hearing hybrids. They're the hybrid. Okay, yeah, but interbred probably a better term to use, and you can, because mitochondrial DNA, it's just the genetic material in the mitochondria. Most of what makes up what you are is in your nuclear DNA. And after several generations of breeding a mixed breed individual back into the parent, one of the parent populations, if they keep breeding back into it, eventually genetic recombination completely washes out the DNA from the other species. It doesn't always happen, but it can. That's why, like, if you are familiar with breeding goats, if your goat is, I think they consider a 1/16. If it's got, let's say you're trying to breed up some mongrel goats up to a full blood Boer herd, the Boer breed. If any of y'all heard of that, if you keep breeding them to Boer bucks for several generations, and you get to where your herd is all a 15/16 Boer, that's considered purebred. So the reason for that is because DNA, it's amazing stuff. It recognizes that the Boer is successfully breeding, right? It doesn't know that humans are involved in this case. It just knows that the Boer is successful in breeding, must be the best survivor. And so genetic recombination, is that mechanism removes that other 1/16. Now, it may not be removed entirely at that point, because it can vary. Um, but if they keep breeding back in the Boer, it'll wash it completely out. So that's how you can end up with pure blood Sasquatch people as far as their nuclear DNA, or nearly pure blood, but they still have mitochondrial DNA from Europeans. If that DNA study, the Ketchum DNA study, if that was true, but we don't know that for sure. There's some fishy stuff connected to that. Um, uh, Paul says, Lockbeard, all chat staring at phone or computer. Don't get this. What you're doing now, Lock, you're no longer words and text. Yeah, some people were. Yeah. Well, you talked about that. I think what you're talking about is how sometimes in text the connotation and doesn't come across. You don't come across right sometimes in text. Bigger brain than me. Well, I don't know about that. Uh, Sandra Pink's here. Welcome. Um, Mogion watched a French bulldog try to hump his shepherd. Yeah. Um, Okay. Juanita's here. Welcome. Resentenced. I'm not sure. Paul's going to have some bear ball jerky, apparently. He's in jail. You talking about Tiger King? Yeah. That was some of the most white trash. I'm sorry, Tiger King. That wasn't nice of me to say. I think I need to catch up in this chat. How far behind am I? Let's see. Oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. He's being resentenced, Tiger King. Bogey on Monsters, never seen an episode of that show. Judging by all the clips I've seen, you and I aren't missing anything. Tom Paul Cajun, hey, gotta go. Sorry, I'll rewatch. Be safe. Thanks, man. Not sure which point, but thank you, Juanita. They're just a little awkward in public. You talking about Sasquatch? I'm giving her all she's got, Captain Paul. Let's see. It must have been from when I mentioned Star Trek. Paul says, Lockbeard, okay, bad juju. We've done them wrong or been identified as untrustworthy. Could have been. You know, who knows? Who knows what led to going down the road they are? Assuming they are real. I think they are, but I just need some more proof. Footprints is pretty solid. I mean, if we can trust Dr. Meldrum, then, you know, he has the skills to identify when you're looking at an actual track or not. And, you know, with any animal, if there's a track, there's something that left it, right? So, okay, Papa Craig. I think those are the ones I was mentioning earlier. Yeah, because they have mitochondrial DNA from polar bears, and I think they're supposed to be like 90% brown bear, and then the rest is I would expect polar bear. Goats, yeah, goats. Welcome, Barb Santee. Welcome, Drake C. Mr. Lee says he can't see himself breeding goats, although one can dream. Now you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. Yeah. Paul says, Papa Craig on WTF Tuesday, are you telling the story of that real mean whale, the human equivalent of Bad Leroy Brown? Ramil's back, he had some chores. Looks like he had some chores. All this chat on here is spastic. It jumps. They don't move smoothly. What's in an hour? Something's in the hour. Somebody coming on here in a little bit. Paul, trying to remember one that's much better than the rest. Little Bo Peep lost the sheep, huh? Stump broke sheep. I don't blame you, but I know what I've seen. Yeah, Drake. Yeah, hopefully the people that have seen don't get offended, but some people seem to get offended if you don't believe them, because in their mind you're calling them a liar. Well, I mean, this is no easy subject to deal with. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing. Um, maybe a lot of these people were just mistaken what they saw. I put on the chat some weeks back. They saw what they thought here was a Black Panther. They look out over that pasture all the time. Cows out there and everything else. Intelligent people. There's no reason to think that they could be mistaken what they saw. But everyone can be fooled, right? And we went out there, and what I think happened was that area right there had recently been brush hogged, which threw off the perspective, right? Because we walked back there, and sure as shit, right there in the bushes was a black house cat. It was a good sized house cat, but it wasn't a Black Panther. And he was so sure it was, though. So perfectly honest, intelligent people can be mistaken sometimes. They could have a misidentification. That's why we really need the hard evidence. Logie on Monster's dog can be mean. Watch out for him or her. Randy says, how Rough Riders roll, rough. See, Paulie, you start in with the songs. I think Paul's singing here. Yeah, I know, Drake. I got way behind. Let's see. Mr. Lee wants to run his fingers through my beard. Nobody touches the beard. Pop Craig, I don't want to ruin it, but he's named after a porn star's junk. Mr. Lee, beard napping. Your turn. No, I don't want to be beard napped again. That's why you know the name of a porn star's junk. Porn star named his junk? You mean Dork the Mighty Sperm Whale? Hey, Mid-South. I thought I already said hi to you earlier, but okay. Paul says Brandy 1,000 word TNA on the ins and outs of the dirtiest industry in America. I guess Paul keeps up on the porn industry. That that's going to be one of the first new big kink, right? If Sasquatch is discovered, there's going to be a whole group of people out there that want Sasquatch porn, and there's probably going to be dwarfs involved. Who knows what could happen? I almost want them to stay hidden just so they can be spared that fate. Yeah, Squatch porn. That'll put the 70s porn to shame, right? We're gonna scar Sandra with this stuff. No comment, huh? Yeah, probably best. But yeah, I think the reason why they brought up polar bears in that live stream the other night is because of the debate about whether or not they could handle the life in the South, and I don't know. They are specialized for the cold. They may not be able to survive as well. So, but you would think a zoo would be able to keep them alive. How the hell did a zoo? They got just keep their water cold, keep their enclosure, have them a cold place to go. They ought to be fine, but I don't know. I wouldn't use polar bears to try and bring back the because the brown bears, there used to be a Mexican variant, and they're extinct now. The same species, it was just a different breed. But I don't know if anyone would want to try and bring them back or not. And the best thing to do would be to obtain some DNA. Hopefully someone's got some DNA from the actual Mexican brown bear to create an embryo, and then allow a normal, like a grizzly or something, to give birth to it. Yeah, short-faced bear. Before I'm kind of sad that some of the older species are gone that were bigger than what we have. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, no, I'm glad those things are gone. But, because what people understand, it's only been 13,000 years since the Younger Dryas impact. There are 160 species of megafauna that are supposed to be here but got wiped out by an astronomical impact. Now, a buddy of mine, he argues that no, it was a natural event that took them out, so they belong gone. And I'm like, well, it depends. When a rock falls out of the fucking sky, I think it's a natural event, but I would see no problem with trying to bring back some of those other species, but just put them somewhere where people aren't gonna. Well, I mean, you probably, like, if you brought back some of those bigger bears, probably put collars on them, trackers, and tell people, look, if you go into this area camping or whatever, you need to have like an app on your phone that tells you where those bears are at all times. So if one gets within, a couple miles of you, to move away. And that would work, I think. I mean, we have the technology now to do a lot of cool stuff. to allow us to live next to um, problematic species, things that would freaking kill us a lot easier than what we have on the planet right now. Um, Paul says the infamous Bush from the 70s. Yeah, they ain't got nothing on Squatchborn. Mr. Lee says pug dog, terrible inbreeding. Yeah, they do. They do quite a bit of inbreeding in some of the, well, in all livestock too. Now, a lot of people immediately hear inbreeding and think, oh, it's bad and it's horrible. But a lot of times that's how, you maintain the qualities of the breed. You just got to make sure that there's no defective genes in the population, because the act of inbreeding doesn't cause the problems. It's the presence of recessive genes that have a more likelihood of popping up in a population that has some of these recessive genes. Now we have genetic analysis now. We can avoid those kind of problems when breeding animals. And I suspect that some of the ancient peoples who were breeding animals long before us and breeding our own kind selectively, and even though they didn't know that there was a DNA molecule, as far as we know, if they see a genetic defect pop up from inbreeding, they now know that defect's hiding in the parents. Surely they were able to figure that out, and then they can select breeders accordingly with that information. Bring them back, but in moderation. Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about all the way back to Jurassic Park, though. That's far enough back that every ecosystem on the planet has changed drastically and is not designed to have dinosaurs in it. What I'm talking about is the Younger Dryas impact that happened about 13,000 years ago, and I've mentioned before that it appears that there was a major and possibly very technologically advanced human civilization at the time. All these megalithic structures that we can't build ourselves, really. I think if we tried really hard, we could, but it would be so obscenely expensive and time consuming and difficult. Well, no, I mean, some of the features appear like we couldn't even pull it off, but yeah, I'm talking about the more recent extinctions: the woolly mammoth, rhinoceros, the giant sloth, the giant cave bear, and all these. There was like 160 different types of megafauna that existed. This is why because you think about it, you got these massive herds of woolly mammoths, right? Huge numbers of these animals. We found fields of them that got all wiped out at once by the impact, right? The idea that humans hunted these things out is complete bullshit. Okay, when you find thousands of these animals dead in one spot, and they found, it's just, no, it was a astronomical impact. But and right now we got cows. We got these cows, and some of the global warming alarmists want to say, hey, cows are farting too much. Well, what the fuck do you think those herds of woolly mammoths and rhinoceros and all those gigantic animals are? You think they didn't have gas too? I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Chicken Little, you're on blast, he says. Michael Edwards says, has anyone heard where they are going to take woolly mammoth DNA and do AI on an elephant? I haven't been following that. I hope they do. That'd be really cool. Because it's only been 13,000 years or so. So this environment is still where they're supposed to live. Now humans are everywhere, but it's not like bringing back a dinosaur. This is not the same ecosystem the dinosaurs lived in. It's still, for the most part, the same ecosystem that woolly mammoths lived in. So I think they belong here. I think we should try to bring them back. Yeah, they've been talking about it for a while. They're bound to do it at some point. They got the DNA, and they have the ability to make the clones. I don't know if they found one or not, Papa. They may. I don't know. I hope they do bring some back. We'll just be real careful where we put them and all that. Rick C says, I would love to see Lockbeard riding on the woolly rhino. Yeah, that is the appropriate steed for me, I think. Mr. Lee says, word. Brandy says, I think they mentioned since the cells were so old, I think they were damaged when activated. Yeah. So they may have to, the technology may have to catch up to be able to pull that off, to fix it. They may be, because DNA is really a language. It's just a molecular language. It's a 4-letter alphabet language. And humans are pretty good with languages. We're eventually going to learn to speak and read and write that language. And we're already fiddling with DNA, and we got this CRISPR nonsense going on. And we'll eventually figure out how to, it'd be just like software developers, just whatever they want to do on the computer, they just got to write the code. Well, if you want to create unicorns, I think humans will eventually be able to write the code, stick it in a cell from something that makes sense, or we may even be able to build the cells. In fact, because a lot of people, like when they argue against abiogenesis, right, the life from nothing, not created by a higher being, but just how did it arise, right? And one of the arguments they make is, how did the cell wall form to contain the cellular? They talk about how the DNA form and how the cellular, but the cell wall, it's like phospholipids and stuff. And anyway, there's and I got in the back of my van here what I need. I throw that stuff in the blender. The molecule, it's I forget what it's called anyway. The molecules arrange naturally into hollow spheres, and they're the same molecules that make up cell walls. Real, just throw it in a blender. It's not anything too technically improbable for basically a cell wall of some rudimentary form to just spontaneously come together. And what reason why I got that is to make liposomal encapsulated vitamin C. So and what that is, and you can mix any vitamin into this mixture, and when the liposomes form in the mixture with whatever vitamin you want, they form around the vitamin in the mixture, so that when you take it in, they're called liposomes, but they're the same, pretty much the same type of structure as a cell wall. So when they encounter a cell wall, they can enter it real easily. It allows the transport of vitamins into your cells really easily. So if you're wanting to megadose vitamin C, you want to get liposomal encapsulated vitamin C, or create it. So that's why I got that stuff. The 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 because it absorbs really well. See, normally vitamin C doesn't absorb very well because all the great apes have the same problem. There was a genetic defect that occurred, and we've all inherited it now, and we've adapted to it for the most part. But the reality is our physiology is able to handle extremely large amounts of vitamin C. You almost would have to drown in vitamin C for vitamin C to kill you. And so there's people out there who claim that they've been able to take in enough vitamin C either through intravenous thousands and thousands of grams or milligrams, but like, well, I don't know how much. Some of them was pretty high. I can't remember, but just an assload of vitamin C. Nothing you could take orally, right? You can't. You would be eating it all day, and you would just get sick of swallowing the pills. But and the theory is that your body would have produced more vitamin C if it still had the ability, because of that defect. That defect disabled our ability to make the vitamin C. I don't think I completed that thought a while ago. They can see the process because it's a multi-step process in our biochemistry, but it stops at some point. Like it looks like it's making vitamin C, and then it just kind of stops. It's because of a genetic defect. Well, liposomal vitamin C allows you to take in obscenely large amounts of vitamin C, bypassing that problem with absorption through normal oral ingestion, and so that you don't have to take it in intravenously to get those high doses. And some people claim they've cured a lot of diseases that way. Actually, there's a 60-minute story that talked about this, and it'll make you mad if you go. I can't remember. It's been years back. This guy got can't remember what it was, but he ended up in the hospital. His lungs are full of fluid, and he was on a respirator, like a breather, an ECMO machine. And the doctors were trying to tell the family to he's done for, and to pull the plug. And the family didn't want to pull the plug, so they had heard about high dose vitamin C, and they were struggling back and forth with the doctors, put them on high dose vitamin C, and some of the doctors were like pulling them off, and then they'd find out, and they'd be like, no, put them back on. And then finally got to the point where they got them to put them back on the high dose intravenous vitamin C, but they didn't put them on enough. So then they got some liposomal encapsulated vitamin C, which you can take orally, but it absorbs really well, and you absorb high doses. He was also diagnosed with leukemia, I think it was. Anyway, I can't remember what illness he had. It was something that was a respiratory thing. He was completely cured of both illnesses. Doctors were going to kill him. So that's a hell of a sidetrack, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. Do your own research. But it's interesting stuff. It was okay. They dropped epic deuces. Oh, you talking about the megafauna? Yeah, I think some people want some rum up in here. I'll pass. I was so sick of drinking years ago. I can't enjoy it. I can't be around drunk people. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? There's a study of making computer code in the DNA or using DNA. No, I was just comparing it. I'm just saying that just like people can write computer code, we'll eventually be able to write DNA code, I think, to create whatever the hell we want. Like, it won't even be about bringing back woolly mammoths. It'll be about, you want a dog that can, cook a souffle. You'll be able to make it, put it on order and have it made, or something that never existed before. They'll be able to invent whatever they want. I mean, it's DNA is just a code, just like computer code. It's just, once you have the ability to build the DNA molecule and write it however you want, it'll be crazy times. And then humans will be like trying to rewrite the DNA of their offspring and stuff, and maybe that could turn out good, but maybe it could turn out very bad. It's going to be a spooky time when they really get a handle on creating new organisms that way. This chat just keeps jumping. The old woolly woodchuck. Bobby's here. Welcome. I'm trying to catch up to where y'all at. Lockbeard, I've been sober for 3 weeks. You gonna make it? Getting a little support from Mogi on there. He's probably just broke. Are you actually trying not to drink anymore? Oh no, I ain't worried about nobody's prejudice. There's always going to be somebody that don't like you or agree with you. So whatever. Jen's here. Welcome. Mr. Lee's on keto. Yeah, Mr. Lee, we gotta spread the keto word. You, me, and Daily Dan. I don't stick to it all the time. I should. I do feel better when I'm just eating. Well, usually it's not just keto. It's strictly carnivorous. My joints stop hurting, which apparently it's an autoimmune issue, but it goes away. And so I noticed that when I went on pure carnivore, that my joint inflammation and pain just kind of went away. And so I kind of poked around the internet trying to figure out if there was a connection. And apparently carbs do irritate some of those conditions. So I think more clearly, and my blood sugar gets nice and steady, and it's just better. And it's just hard to convince people. I mean, for one, carbs are addictive, and it's beyond addictive though, because in the wild, humans, when they found a fruit tree, it was a rare thing, and they needed to have a strong impulse to consume the fruit, and so it's a survival mechanism. But the problem is we created a world where there's carbs everywhere, and not even just natural carbs. We've created these processed sugars and flours and stuff, and we started eating plants we weren't supposed to, and so now we're in a bad situation. And there's a reason why people can't stop eating that stuff. it's just programmed to eat it when you find it. But it was a rare thing in the wild. Looks like Papa C knows a little bit about the keto, Mr. Lee. Hopefully y'all still hearing me all right. Paul says he's downgraded to 80 proof, but only did 100 proof poly for Mog's 100th show. Yeah. Yeah, when I did drink, it was usually just a social situation. You know, I didn't really want to drink. I mean, it just never was something that was but you know, you go to the bar, you got to drink, or you're in social situations, and well, you know, and I didn't like drinking beer because it didn't seem to like do much. The only thing it did for me is send me to the bathroom every 10 minutes. You know, trying to pee it out. My body was just processing it, and I just can't just guzzle beer after beer after beer. I'm like, this bullshit. So I got into a regular habit to the point that when I walked in, the bartender was already making what I started with, and usually I'd start with a shot of 151, and then start drinking Long Island iced teas, and then I could get somewhere. Now nowadays, since I haven't had alcohol in years, I probably couldn't hold my liquor worth of shit. But that way, you know, I'm not like in the bathroom all the time, and I actually start to feel it. That I had one job where they were bringing them. I worked at a golf course, and the drink cart girls found out I liked Long Island iced teas, so they started bringing them to me when I was at work. Which it was kind of, I was running the golf shop. Well, I wasn't the manager, but the manager was a member and the assistant manager, and both of them were always drunk off their asses themselves. So you see the situation. And I was always good about being able to like function. Like I have some friends, they can't function once they start getting drinking. Like they'll black out, or they'll start getting into fights, or you know, one dude we knew got, you know, it's just crazy stuff. And I'm not gonna start telling those kind of stories, but usually I could function fairly well, and so I was counting down my drawer and conducting business, you know. Homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down the old Maui brandy. Paul says, Brandy gonna sit around the kitchen, fix me something good to eat, make myself a little high, make the whole day complete. We're gonna hang around the shanty mama and put a good buzz on. Welcome, Tony Rock the Fams. Welcome to the show. We're not even talking about Pizzly Bears anymore. Not really a whole lot. It was just, I was just making a correlation to it, and it came up on Moog's show the other day. And yeah, people like to see a little bit of little bit. Oh, they didn't get heated, but they were kind of debating a little bit because there was a guy who wasn't. He's not in the Bigfoot community. He was just dropped in kind of random, and you know, he wants proof of, he wants to see a little more proof of Sasquatch. He's having a hard time believing it. Brandy says Long Island was my first drink ever legally. I never drank anything illegal. Um, I had there was some alcoholism in the house growing up, so I didn't have a good opinion about alcohol when I was young. And then when I got to college, I was almost 22 when some of my friends finally talked me into doing it, and I told them, so look, part of the reason why I don't want to do this is because that alcoholism resulted in violence, and I don't want to be violent. Um, and I'm a real strong guy, and you know none of y'all could stop me. If I lost control. I didn't know what was going to happen if I drank. I had no idea. I just seen other people lose control and do violent and crazy things. I didn't want. I valued being in control. Like one of my favorite characters in Star Trek, Spock and the Vulcans, and maintaining emotional control was something that interested me, and the whole mind over matter thing. I think I talked about that a little bit before, the amount of control I was able to have over a couple of things with that. I didn't want to lose control, and they said it'll be fine. We'll make sure nothing goes wrong. I'm like, okay. So I was almost 22 when I first drank alcohol, and it turned out I was able to be in very good control. Tony says I quit drinking back in 2019. I was drinking half gallons of Jack Daniels 2 days. I realized that wasn't me and quit. Good deal. Yeah, when I think back to how much, because when I got to drinking socially, I started doing it a lot, and it got to be my normal routine. I go to work, go to the bar, go to bed, right? And it got to be a 6-day-a-week thing. So a lot of money, a lot of poison in the body. So I wish I could go back and not done that, but it happened. So Paul says, go, Brandy, go big or go home. Pickled liver. Yeah, pickle your liver. Jen says, more fun to watch drunks these days. I'm old. I get real irritated with them myself. I don't like, and my friends, I think some of them have gotten irritated with me in the past because they're going somewhere and they're going drinking, and I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be in a bar. I don't want to be around a bunch of people that their mind is just, you can't talk about heavy stuff with them. And if you do, they'll half the time you'll make them mad. It's just it's a kind of a mindless activity, which is, it's fine if they want to do that. It's just I don't want to be around it anymore. Brandy's no drinking anymore. Me either. That's where Blackberry comes in the mix. I've been 4 years, 2 months since I quit. Remiel, let's hit the thumbs up. Yay, thanks, Remiel. Brandy says, I do still keep whiskey around if my teeth act up or after dental work. Don't do narcotics, gargle some. Man, I don't like dentists. Oh, man. I don't want any people, sometimes I have nightmares about not being able to breathe. And when they start getting in my mouth, it just like triggers that. And then, of course, the last time I went to the dentist, all he did was give me painkiller and yank out a wisdom tooth when there shouldn't be any damn wisdom tooth. I told him, I said, I swear, 20 years ago I had all my wisdom teeth yanked out. Why is there a goddamn wisdom tooth in my mouth? And he said, oh, it's just one of those things. No, it's not just one of those goddamn things. Yep, a dentist yanked my teeth. The last time I've been to a dentist, the only reason I'm in here right now is because I keep getting repeated infections in my teeth, and it hurts, and I can't figure it out, you know? And he couldn't tell me why. He didn't even really try, and he couldn't explain to me why there was a damn wisdom tooth in my mouth. Was he lying to me? Is he full of shit? I mean, what the fuck is going on here? Luckily, because I went home, I've run into a few situations like this where the doctor did not figure out why I was having an issue, and I had to figure it out myself. And what I figured, I was having some other issues too at the time, but won't go into all of it. But what I think my problem was, and I fixed it, was I was having a pre-workout at the gym. I was drinking 2 protein drinks a day, and I was drinking, I think, 1 energy drink every day, right? Every one of those is sweetened with sucralose. And so I was dosing on this artificial sweetener, and if you look into sucralose, you'll figure out it's a problem. It's not good for you. It can create all kinds of problems, and apparently one of them was what was happening to me. And once I stopped drinking everything with sucralose in it, I stopped getting those tooth infections. The dentist yanked the tooth out, put me on antibiotics and painkillers, and couldn't tell me why I was having the problem. I don't know if I'll ever go to dentist again. I'll have to be in bad shape if I ever go to dentist again. What about moonshine, Mr. Lee 3PO? I almost made some once, but I don't drink, so I don't have any motivation to do it. Papa C had to stop at age 35 and 87. Let's see. More moonshine, apple moonshine. Soul shine's better than moonshine, better than sunshine, and damn sure better than rain. Yeah. Happiness in a bottle. I don't know. You got, like, some of these bars I've gone to, I see all these old men sitting around, and they look fucking miserable to me. All of them looking for a woman. You know, they're all looking for a woman. And yeah, especially that bar up there. That bar was, very few women were in there, and if they were already with a guy. So all these guys were just sitting there just drinking and not been to a bar in years, Jen says. Paul says, I'm sorry, my impaired ass drunk read that. Thanks. I don't like feeling that drinking alcohol gives you. I very rarely drink. Yeah, if I drink something, it's been a long time since I have, but there was a few times where I had one and I just felt poisoned. I didn't like it. Proud of you quitting. It's really hard. Yeah, for a lot of people it is. It wasn't hard at all for me because I was never an addict. So you know how they say it runs in families. Well, I think maybe that's true in some cases, but in other cases I think it's more of a learned behavior. And I think in my case I just learned not to have an addictive personality, I guess. Hard to say. All I know is I wasn't addicted. Like it just, there were multiple points in my life where I just, kind of just stopped going to the bar and didn't even think about it. Just didn't. Singing bars. Yeah, they still ain't got you to sing on the show, have they? I like going to bars, but then you get some dingbat that can't hold his liquor and has to prove something. I have to face everyone who can't hold their alcohol, has to come to me and want to fight. Yeah, Tony. So many times been in that situation. Didn't like it. I mean, I'm there to have a good time. Find a girl. Not there to fight. But it seems like some people just their whole goal is to go fight. And then when it's happening with friends, like I've had them, because I kind of talk everyone down usually. That whole conflict resolution training from when I ran dormitories was still strong in my mind, and so I just talk people down and try to diffuse the situation, and my friends would get mad at me because they want to fight too. Like, no, the only thing that's going to happen is we're going to get thrown out of here or thrown in jail. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to do anything good. Some people have backup wisdom teeth. Yeah, why didn't he tell me that? I wish, Mr. Lee. Yeah, bars, most of them suck. Most of them do. I love the pub, says Mr. Lee. Sing to us Tuesday. Folks, Brenda Hawkins is starting karaoke live show for everyone. The instant aggravation of drinks, not understanding real time. Yeah. I think Paul's well into his evening. Sharon says, Modes, you did the right thing and stopped drinking alcohol. A doctor told a family member of mine that when we're addicted to something, it takes approximately 5 years for the brain to go back to normal. Remiel says, Modes, I heard you sing once in your just a few lyrics, though. It's been on your show, but you have a great voice. Where's that footage, Remio? Gargle hydrogen peroxide. I agree. Normal, 0 cavities. Well, I've never had a cavity. I was just getting infections in my mouth, and it was like, what the fuck? Heard you sing on your show, Mogs. Just a few lyrics. You have a great voice. I don't know anyone like that. I'd like to quit smoking again, but I'd have to quit drinking. Oh well. Brandy, I'm not sure now what show that was. Oak said if I didn't start, Brandy, darn, I wouldn't be here today. Sharon says part of the brain that has pleasure from whatever it is addicted to, it takes 5 years for it to go back. I think I already read that one, didn't I? I never fought drunk. I cried sometimes, Brandy. Get singing Mogs, post some shorts. It'll be around 7. We're glad and happy you stopped drinking Mogs. Mr. Lee, I had a 4 gram a day cocaine habit for over 10 years. It messed up my liver. It's been 6 years since I stopped, and I'm still not over it. Brandy's like, that's expensive. Yeah. It's good he stopped. Paul says he quit playing in band. That environment isn't good for me. I love to sing and be a performer, whether it's LOCKBEARD, Sam, Sasquatch Sam, I'm a Putt, Short Island, Smallfoot, Daily Polyblog. Yeah. All the money. All the monies. Sharon, Mr. Lee, you did the right thing in stopping. Trashed me too 35 years ago. The booze was the problem, not preforming. It was around Iron Dogger's birthday. I may record some karaoke tomorrow evening at the American Legion. Nothing good comes out of it. Yeah, folks, you should. Been waiting on some Garth Brooks. Bobby hasn't had alcohol in many years, thank goodness. Yeah. I prefer to keep my mind clear. It's bad enough when my blood sugar drops, then everything goes south. Your brain doesn't function very well when you're at 53. Blood sugar is not supposed to be that low, but that happens to me sometimes. Sang some Garth Brooks. Moog said, calling Baton Rouge. Well, hopefully that made some sense to some people. Trying to, put that thought out there that the possibility that all these different species of hominids are not different species. They were just different races. One of my favorites, and I don't know how the world's going to react to this hypothesis, right? You've all heard of the hobbits, not from the movies, but the very short people on the island of Flores that they found remains of these people. They call them Homo floresiensis. I suspect that they are not a separate species from us, and that I'll just throw it out quick and dirty, and y'all just run with it, or take what you want from it, or once we see some DNA, we'll know more. Because because what I think, I've met Southeast Asians who are like 4.5 feet tall. They're really short Southeast Asians. So if people of our height run across some of those hobbit type people and some shenanigans took place, what if that's the origin of the Southeast Asian race? What if that entire group is the result of crossing with the Homo floresiensis type people? If the DNA pans out and shows that that's what happened, well, they were Homo sapiens, and we could probably call them subspecies floresiensis, but I just think that's interesting. There's some Southeast Asians are very short people, and what if that's because they have more of the DNA from when the interbreeding with Flores man occurred? Because they're gone now, as far as we know, and yeah, of course, because people assume Asians were always there, but when you got redheaded mummies in China, and which they do, Tarim Basin, I think it's called. When you have like the I got to remember the name of them. They were in Japan, and apparently originally they were a Caucasian people, but now they have been bred, and now they're, a bunch of Japanese DNA, so they don't look Caucasian anymore. So, there might be something going on there. No. My blood sugar has gotten down to 53, and it's not good for brain function. Yeah. Operator won't get her on the line. All it takes is a couple words. Actually, it was the river. Mugs, if you record it, can you show it? Or will I tube ding you? Heard stories about that. Yeah, I gotta watch out for that stuff. Spent last night in the arms of a girl, Louisiana. Yeah, I remember that. Can't get it back. I think Shorts OK Iron would know Mugs. She includes songs in her shorts. I'll show it to 8 people at a time on StreamYard if I have to. There are pygmy tribes, really short stature. Yeah. They assumed they were separate species, the Humfloresiensis, the Hobbit people. But, they don't really know that. And if I'm right, all these different groups never had enough time isolated to fully speciate, to fully become a separate species from the rest of the human group. Then my hypothesis may be true. Music background, they had issues, had to fight it. Yeah, you gotta watch out for the dang copyrights. Good night, Sharon. Take care, Sharon. Night, Sharon. Everybody's saying good night to Sharon. I don't know if I should say, Mr. Lee. Piratism. Sorry. Butching Garth's lyrics. Mr. Lee, that is a... That's hard to answer. I'm sure you're thinking, wanting proof of everything, that I probably don't believe in anything spiritual, right? Defining what I am, man, I don't even know where, because from a certain point of view, you would call me an atheist. But anytime I've tried to explain to atheists what I think about all that, they tell me you're not an atheist. I'd have to go down the road of explaining the nature of what you would call the spiritual realm through science, because to me it's a scientific phenomenon, and because most people are living based on Einstein and quantum physics, and they've been told about space time, by freaking oh, Stephen Hawking and all them types, you know. And of course, most people are like, they don't even know what the fuck to make of that shit, right? And a few people, they kind of think they understand, but the reality is space is not a thing, and time is not a thing. It's just how we measure something. Like they turn non-things and make them into things, and now you're probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'm talking about the spiritual. I'm not good at explaining this, but what you would call a soul or a spirit in the science that I go by, that I think is correct, is it's not a magical thing. It may seem magical to people, but it's not. And it's really just a collection of signals. And they propagate through what the ancients called the ether. And of course, mainstream science doesn't want to accept the ancients knew that there was this substrate upon which all of reality is created on. There has to be a substrate. You can't have light propagating through empty space. It needs to have a medium to propagate through. It's one of the hints that there's the ether exists. Now, what the fuck the ether is, you know, we arrive at the same place. Where it came from, what it is, we don't know. Just like, you know, religious people don't know where, they can't tell you where God comes from, and then they try to use the argument, well, where'd the Big Bang come from? Well, nobody knows where the very basic level of reality came from. Okay, we're all equal on that, but so the spiritual realm is signals in the ether. So when mainstream science tells you that your brain is the origin of your consciousness, it's kind of bullshit. It's sort of, how to explain this? I think what's going on is there is an onboard autopilot in place, right? Because you got, but the brain is like a radio, not a radio station. It picks up signals. It isn't the origin of the signals. The collection of frequencies, or whatever you want to call it, that makes up what you call your soul. So basically everything in the universe is permeated and interconnected with these frequencies and these signals, and so it's almost like a form of, you would call it a form of animism. Everything has spirit to it, right? The rock, the people, the sun, you know. But do I think the sun consciously gives two shits if we sacrifice something to it? No. Or the universe. And of course, everything is part of one universal consciousness. You know, if you think about, because science has kind of hinted on this a little bit, where they talked about they call it quantum entanglement. They're trying to sound, every time they say quantum, they're trying to sound like they, you know. Anyway, I hate it when they use that word because it's stupid. But and basically, what you have is instantaneous interconnectivity of every point in the universe, really, and they call it quantum entanglement. And I'm like, well, don't you guys have a speed limit on everything in the universe? That's instantaneous communication across space. That's way beyond speed of light. Well, that interconnectivity constitutes a consciousness on a level that we can't even remotely, you know, it's infinite conscious power. It's just all signals in the ether. Some may call that God. You know, they may like to think that the universal consciousness gives a shit about them. I don't think it does. It probably doesn't even, it wouldn't care if the whole planet blew up, probably. because it's here whether the molecules are scattered or not, right? So I don't know, an animist maybe, an atheist. Yeah, I saw you where you asked, is atheism a religion? You say that to an atheist, most of them get pissed all the way the fuck off. But from my perspective, since they believe there is no God and they don't have adequate data to support that, and then when I got atheists telling me, you're not atheist because you believe there is a consciousness behind it. Well, yeah, but I'm trying to give you a scientific explanation of it. But when you talk to an atheist about how quantum physics has problems with it, they're like, oh, you're rejecting science now. Well, I don't reject science. I reject bad science. And quantum physics has some issues. Doesn't mean all science. I don't mean I reject all science. And of course, when I say something like that, the flat earthers show up, and then we're, fuck, I don't know. But yeah, I would consider atheism a kind of religion, but I wouldn't say that to an atheist because you're just going to start an argument. I knew science was coming, Mogyan says. And Mr. Lee says, or Papa says, Mr. Lee, what you believe about God and the nature of the universe is your religion. Mogs, yes. It was difficult, Mogs, but you said it. I feel better. I used to have a tendency to be an atheist, but now I'm agnostic, more of a free thinker. Yeah, just keep questioning. Once you don't be a fanatic, is probably most important. Fanatics end up killing people half the time and doing crazy stuff, and just play it cool, and don't try to force it on other people. It's just let everybody believe what they want to believe. You'll be fine. The Church of the Babbling Brook. All right, I was planning on staying, but gotta show Lockbeard. Good yar, mate. Yes, take it easy, man. Thanks for coming. They made those no things measurable. No things? I'm not sure. Remiel, I would say I'm also a free thinker. Hard. Which makes them a thing. Well, they try to make stuff into it's like waves. They basically try to say a wave is a thing. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. It's funny, the one guy I know of who's really prolifically putting out information about this kind of stuff. He has a YouTube channel, and he writes books and articles and stuff, and but mainstream science just won't listen. But when the wave thing comes up, he does this thing, and I will try to replicate it, where he's playing the two voices in a conversation. This is a wave, right? Or he says, what is this? And they say, a wave. He's like, no, it's my fucking hand. A wave is what something does. It's not what something is. It's kind of, yeah. That differentiation may not mean much to a lot of people, but when they try to say, from the double slit experiment that things are both a particle and a wave, they can't be both a particle and a wave. They just can't. They don't make any sense whatsoever. But because their experiment specified that they were going to determine it's either a particle or a wave, and then it turned out that it could, depending on the circumstances, exhibit both. They just threw up their hands and said, oh, it must be both. No, there was something wrong with your initial assumption. Admit that. Go back to the drawing board and Start over. I believe so, Mr. Lee, based on what you've been expressing in chat. Because he said he's a free thinker. Mr. Mogion says, no. Where's he? I watched Aliens on the Moon. He was here earlier. Must have lost him. What does it say, Mr. Lee? Remiel says everything is energy. The energy may have forms that we may still not be fully aware of, unlimited possibilities. Yeah. Or as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration, and energy, I believe was the quote. People are almost using some of the right term. You know, when they say they get a vibe, vibrations. You know, theoretically, your brain picks up signals all the time, and you know, that make up you. So it's not that far fetched to think it might be picking up some vibrations it's normally not supposed to. Like, you're not normally supposed to be psychic, I don't think. You know, you have biochemical, and that would be a whole nother thing to get into. I ain't gonna try to go down. You know, talking about you know, psychedelics, DMT, and all that stuff, and how the brain works. I think it's meant to isolate. You know, it's like a radio. You tune to a particular frequency, and you got to stay on that damn frequency. But psychics, you know, they're like, yeah, let's just wiggle the dial a little bit. Or when you take DMT, you're fiddling with the dial too. You know, or mushrooms or LSD or all that shit. You're messing with that chemistry that's designed to kind of keep you as an individual. And for what reason? People talk about it all the time. You know, they think that we're here to have unique new experiences and try to understand the universe, trying to understand itself, that kind of stuff. I don't know, but for some reason we're supposed to be, you know, focused as an individual and not the, you know, we everybody doesn't know everybody else's thought. You know, we don't. Yeah. Well, me too, Mr. Lee, but I think you might need to. Yeah, it is. I don't know, Mr. Lee. Where'd you hear that? Yeah, some people think there's something to that, but yeah, maybe, you know, if you can manipulate, but I just don't know. I don't know about that. And Mr. Lee, why would there be a secret mission to the moon? Is that the one where they went and found the Transformers? Because I don't know about that. Aliens on the Moon documentary. Well, there's claims of that. You know, but as far as I know, there's no evidence. The only things that interest me about the Apollo missions, you know, unless Bigfoot and all's right and NASA's lying to us, the experiments that the Apollo missions did that seeming to give some weight to the idea that the moon is an artificially constructed, hollow titanium space station of some kind. I don't know if I'm prepared to. I don't know if I'm prepared to jump on that, but entirely. But it's interesting the results they got. Well, y'all, we've been on here more than a couple hours. They found an alien hybrid woman and have footage of it, but she looks like a sex doll. Yeah, I mean, how do we know if that wasn't faked? You know? Yeah. I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap her up, y'all. It looks like Central Florida Bigfoot's on. Probably been on for about 25 minutes or so. So if y'all want to go over there and tell them you're raiders from Lockbeard ship, have fun. Um, let's see. Gravitational pull of the moon and tidal activity don't support the notion of the hollow moon. Well, it's not that it does have gravitation, but they were doing like I can't remember. It was like some kind of they determined the density was too low of the moon, and then there was issues like the high titanium in lunar samples, and the craters are way too shallow for how wide they are. Just there was several different things, and then the Apollo experiment with the seismic equipment all seems to have indicate that it isn't exact. It isn't just a rock, so it's going to still have gravity, but it should have more if it's a big rock that size. But hey, Mark, yeah, I'll see you next time. Headed to your horn. Good day, man. Got to watch then. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shut down. If you go over to Central Florida Bigfoot's channel, tell them you're raiders from Lockbeard ship, and have fun. Thank you, Bobby. The whole flat orbit, it doesn't spin. Yeah, yeah. Good night. I think Lockbeard. Just see some of you elsewhere. Later, Tater off the raid. Yeah, guys. I'll see you later. Make sure and check out Mogion's show. If the other WTF guy shows up, and then we get Pat in there, maybe they're really getting a fight. Dark Side of the Moon is what I've been hearing about, having an alien presence. Isn't that a Pink Floyd album? Yeah. You too, Mogion. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Later, Tater. Yeah, go raid Central Florida Bigfoot. Raiders from Lockbeard ship. You too, Barb. All right. Good night, y'all. Thank you for coming.